The note was stuck to the cart handle, 2 words that said everything: too much trouble. It was one of those bright Texas mornings that pretend to be kind until you actually look down. The sun bounced off the metal carts, the asphalt still wet from last night's storm. I was just crossing the parking lot, coffee in hand, thinking about the surgeries waiting for me at the clinic. And then I saw movement under one of the carts near the dumpster. At first, I thought it was trash caught in the wind. But trash doesn't breathe like that. The cart was flipped upside down, a wire grate laid across its frame like a makeshift lid. Beneath it, something small trembled. Too quiet, too still. I crouched, and that's when I saw her. A little black German Shepherd puppy, soaked, pressed flat against the asphalt, her chest moving fast and shallow. The fur around her paws was muddy, her nose scraped raw. She didn't bark. She didn't even whimper. Just stared up at me with those glassy brown eyes that didn't ask for help. They apologized for existing. On the handle above her head, taped with greasy duct tape, was that note. Too much trouble. I remember my throat tightening, the coffee cooling in my hand. I've been a veterinarian in Dallas for nearly 20 years. My name's Nathan Cole, and I've seen pain in every shape it comes. But this was different. Someone had looked into those eyes, heard that heartbeat, and decided she wasn't worth keeping. Not even worth the effort of leaving somewhere safe. They caged her under a cart like forgotten groceries. The parking lot was full of people coming and going, shopping bags, car doors, laughter. No one stopped. No one looked down. The world just moved around her. I set my coffee on the ground and got on my knees. The metal rattled as she flinched. I could see her sides shaking, ribs lifting too fast for such a small body. My hands were trembling too, but I forced my voice to soften. "It's okay, little one," I said. "I see you." That was the first time Grace heard her name. I gripped the edge of that metal grate and lifted. The sound was awful. Metal scraping against metal, a scream that made the little German Shepherd puppy flatten against the asphalt like she was bracing for pain. People walked by. A man pushing another cart glanced my way, then kept moving. A woman with a stroller wrinkled her nose and dropped her receipt in the trash. Someone even tossed a grocery bag into the next cart, not 5 feet from us. Nobody stopped. Nobody cared. I wanted to shout, not out of anger, but shame. For all of us. For how easy it is to walk past something small, something breathing, because it's inconvenient. She wasn't a stray pup. She was someone's promise, broken and abandoned in a parking lot. A little shepherd dog who had already learned that silence was safer than sound. Her eyes tracked my hands, too tired to fight, too scared to hope. I slid the grate aside and whispered, "You're free, sweetheart." But freedom didn't mean anything to her. The rescued puppy didn't run. She just stayed there, trembling, the way soldiers stay down even after the guns stop. I tried to coax her out with a piece of sandwich from my pocket. The small dog sniffed the air but didn't move. Her paws were glued to the ground like she didn't trust it to hold her. She wasn't looking for safety. She was waiting for the next bad thing. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't fear. It was surrender. She wasn't fighting because she'd already lost. Somewhere along the way, the world had taught this young shepherd that pain was part of breathing. A truck honked nearby, and she flinched so hard it broke my heart. I set the food down and backed away, giving her space. No tricks, no pressure, just air, just choice. For a few seconds, nothing. Then her head lifted, barely. Her eyes met mine, unsure, unsteady, and she took one tiny shaking step, then another. She crawled across the wet asphalt, every move an apology, until she reached my boot. And there, this small German Shepherd puppy rested her head against the toe of my shoe like it was the safest place left in the world. That's how she chose me. Not by trust, but by surrender. I wrapped her in the only clean thing I had, an old clinic towel from the back seat, and carried her to my truck. The little German Shepherd puppy didn't resist. No squirming, no sound. Just that hollow stillness that only comes from something that's already been broken. The drive back to the clinic was short, but it felt endless. The light kept flashing red to green, like the city itself couldn't decide whether to stop or keep pretending nothing had happened. I glanced at her every few seconds in the rearview mirror. The towel rose and fell with each tiny breath, each one a fight she shouldn't have had to win alone. When we pulled into the lot, the staff was already inside, prepping for morning appointments. I pushed the door open with my shoulder, and the smell of disinfectant hit me like always. Sharp, clean, safe. Safe for everyone but the ones who get thrown away. Who would do this? My assistant Rachel whispered when she saw the soaked towel move. Her voice cracked halfway through the sentence. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't have words, but because none of them would have been fit to say out loud. We laid the shepherd pup on a heating pad. Her paws twitched, like they were still running in her dreams, running from something. Her eyes stayed half open, scanning the room, searching for exits that didn't exist. She was maybe 12 weeks old. A young dog who should have been chewing on socks and chasing leaves, not learning that cages come in all shapes, even shopping carts. I cleaned the dirt from her fur, checked for fractures. Her ribs were visible but intact, her pads raw but not bleeding. Physically, she'd live. But inside, that was the wound we couldn't stitch. Rachel stood beside me, silent. We both knew this little rescued puppy didn't need surgery. She needed time, warmth, and a reason to believe hands could mean kindness again. When I reached for a fresh blanket, she flinched, then froze. No bark, no bite, just that small tremor of fear that said, "Don't hurt me, I'll be good." My throat tightened. I wanted to say something, anything, to fill the space between us that humans had made. Instead, I just sat beside her crate. No words, no pity, just presence. Her eyes met mine again, still cloudy, still unsure. I whispered her name, softer this time, letting it hang in the sterile air like a promise. Grace. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then, barely, one ear twitched like a broken radio catching signal. The first thing I did was run warm water. Not hot, warm, steady, like comfort should feel. The little German Shepherd puppy was light in my arms, almost weightless. You don't realize how small it can get until fear starts replacing body weight. She didn't struggle when I set her in the sink. Just stood there, stiff as a statue, as if any move might earn her a punishment she still remembered. Her fur clung to her bones, water tracing down her spine in trembling lines. I kept my voice low, steady, the way you'd talk to a frightened child. "It's just water, Grace. Just water." Her eyes didn't blink. Not once. I'd seen that look before. Not on a puppy, but on people. Shelter eyes. The look of something that survived more than it should have. When I was a kid, my father told me, if a dog won't look you in the eye, her heart's still hiding somewhere in fear. I didn't understand it back then. Now I did. Grace didn't just avoid my eyes. She avoided the idea of trust itself. I dried her gently, wrapping her in a soft towel, leaving only her nose poking out. Her breathing slowed, almost as if the warmth was reminding her what safety used to feel like. Still, no movement, no wag, just silence. I placed her in a small crate beside my desk with a bowl of water and some soft food, chicken and rice, the kind every rescued puppy gets when their stomach's forgotten how to eat. She didn't even look at it, just kept her gaze on the far wall, ears twitching to every sound like danger might walk back through the door. I sat down near her, not too close, just enough so she could feel I wasn't going anywhere. The clinic hummed softly, machines, quiet voices, life going on outside her little square of space. The smell of antiseptic mixed with the faint scent of wet fur and fear. I leaned back, watching this small shepherd dog breathe, and thought about how many others never even make it this far. How many brave pups never get seen at all. Hours passed like that. Me talking in whispers she didn't answer, her staring into a world I couldn't see. Every few minutes, I'd slide the bowl an inch closer, hoping. Nothing. No bite. No lick. Just stillness. But when I stood to leave, her head lifted, barely. Her eyes followed my steps, uncertain but aware. And in that tiny flicker, I saw the beginning of something that looked like maybe. She didn't eat, but she stayed. And that was more than enough for day one. The note sat on my desk all morning, damp edges curling from the rain. 2 words in black marker, too much trouble. I'd read it a dozen times, but the more I stared at it, the less I understood. Too much trouble. For whom? For them, whoever decided a living creature was too much to handle? Or for her, the little German Shepherd puppy who learned that love could have a return policy? Grace was resting in her crate beside me, wrapped in a blanket that looked far too big for her. The rescued puppy hadn't made a sound since the parking lot. Every breath she took felt borrowed. Every twitch of her paw was a memory she couldn't unlearn. I kept glancing between her and that note, the words starting to rot in my head. There's a special kind of cruelty in writing something down. It means you had time to think it through. Someone looked at this small shepherd dog, thought about her, and still decided she wasn't worth keeping. At noon, the clinic got busy. Phones ringing, doors opening, the sound of a rolling cart echoing down the hall. The metal clatter bounced off the tiles, and before I could even react, Grace bolted to the back of her crate. Her body flattened, her tail tucked tight under her. Her eyes, wide, unblinking. The same eyes from under that supermarket cart. That sound had carved itself into her bones. She wasn't afraid of the cart. She was afraid of the memory that came with it. I froze mid-step, realizing what she was seeing. Not me, not the clinic, but that parking lot. The cold asphalt, the cage, the laughter of strangers walking away. I turned the note over like maybe there'd be something else on the back. Something human. A name, an apology, anything. But it was blank. Just 2 words standing in for an entire act of indifference. Rachel came by and whispered, "Maybe they couldn't handle her." I shook my head. No, they didn't even try. The young shepherd peeked at us from her corner, trembling. I crouched low, letting her see my hands, palms open, no force, no noise. I'd learned by now that love for a scared pup isn't loud, it's patient. The cart sound faded, but she stayed hidden, breathing heavy. And for the first time I understood, she wasn't reacting to what happened, she was reacting to what she'd been taught. She wasn't just left behind, she was labeled, and that's when I realized she wasn't just left. She was defined. It was close to midnight when the clinic finally went quiet. The hum of the air conditioner, the ticking clock, the faint smell of antiseptic, all the sounds of a life that doesn't quite stop even after everyone leaves. I stayed behind, finishing charts I didn't care about, pretending I wasn't waiting for something. I'm 43 now, old enough to know that some things you don't rush. Healing is one of them. Trust is another. Grace lay curled in her crate a few feet away, her little German shepherd puppy chest rising and falling in shallow rhythm. She'd eaten a few bites that evening, progress if you could call it that. The rescued puppy had stopped shaking, but she still kept her eyes half open, as if sleep was a luxury she didn't deserve. I typed a few notes, then stopped when I heard it, a sound so soft I thought I'd imagined it. Not a whine, not a cry, just a breath with an edge. Then again, sharper this time, a bark. Barely more than a whisper, but it cut through the stillness like a spark through paper. I turned slowly, afraid that if I moved too fast, I'd scare it away. Whatever fragile courage had made that sound. Grace was sitting up, head tilted, ears uneven from where the fur had dried wrong. Her small dog frame trembled, not from fear this time, but from effort, the effort it took to be heard again. I didn't speak, I didn't move. I just looked at her, and for the first time, she looked right back. Straight into my eyes. Her gaze wasn't pleading. It wasn't scared. It was searching, like she was trying to place me somewhere between threat and safety. That little bark broke something in me. You can't really explain it unless you've seen it. The moment a young shepherd realizes the world might still listen. She took a breath, then another. One paw shifted forward, cautious. The towel rustled under her weight. The air between us changed. Heavy, fragile, human. I knelt slowly beside the crate, kept my hands visible, palms open. "Hey," I said softly, "you found your voice." Her tail twitched, the smallest motion, then stopped again, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to be happy yet. And maybe that's what hit me hardest. For all the cruelty she'd seen, she still wanted to try, to speak, to ask. It wasn't a bark of fear, it was a question. Can I trust you now? Dallas was drowning in rain that night. The kind that doesn't fall, it pounds, turning parking lots into rivers and air into glass. I stood by the clinic window, coffee cooling in my hand, watching water pour off the awning in silver sheets. Somewhere out there, a shopping cart rolled loose across the asphalt, metal wheels grinding, echoing through the storm. For a second, my stomach tightened. The sound was too familiar. It was the same hollow clatter that once meant fear for a small German shepherd puppy named Grace. But inside, everything was different. The clinic lights were dimmed, the hum of machines soft. Grace was sleeping in her crate beside my desk. Not huddled this time, not hidden. She was stretched out, belly up, legs slightly bent like she finally believed nothing would hurt her here. A small plush toy, a stuffed puppy one of the vet techs had left behind, rested against her chest. She held it close the way kids hold security blankets. Her little paw twitched now and then, but it wasn't from fear anymore. It was the restless dreaming of a young pup finally learning what peace felt like. I sat on the stool and just watched her breathe. Funny how a rescued puppy can make a grown man feel more human than anything else. The rain outside drummed against the roof, but in here it sounded almost like a lullaby. Every now and then, she'd sigh, a deep, tired sound, like her small dog body was releasing months of tension one breath at a time. The storm picked up, lightning flashing through the blinds. The cart outside hit something and fell over with a crash. I froze, waiting for her to jolt awake, to panic, to hide. She didn't. Her ears twitched, but she didn't move, just shifted her paw, pressing it tighter against the toy. That's when I realized something had changed. The world outside could still make noise, still remind her of where she'd been, but it no longer owned her. She'd found something stronger than fear, warmth, belonging, quiet. The kind of safety no medicine could prescribe. The kind that starts not with rescue, but with trust. I turned off the overhead light, letting the rain be the only sound left. Grace's breathing stayed slow and steady, her fur damp around her nose, her toy still tucked under her chin. She was still that puppy from the cart, but now the cage was open. By morning, the rain had stopped, but the quiet felt wrong. Grace didn't come to greet me with her sleepy stretch or the half-tail wag she'd started to practice. The little German Shepherd puppy just lay there, curled up in the same spot she'd fallen asleep in, eyes half open but dull. The food bowl was untouched. The water dish barely moved. I crouched beside her crate and said softly, "Hey, sleepyhead." But she didn't lift her head. Her breathing was shallow, her little chest rising too fast. When I touched her nose, it was warm. Too warm. The thermometer confirmed what my gut already knew. Fever. Stress infection. It happens sometimes with rescued puppies. Their bodies finally stop running on adrenaline and all the fear they've been carrying catches up at once. Still, that didn't make it any easier to see. I'm a vet. I'm supposed to stay calm. That's the rule. You don't panic. You don't show doubt. Animals read you like open books. If they see fear in you, they think it belongs to them. But as I wrapped the little pup in a towel and listened to her labored breathing, I could feel my throat tightening. I kept my hand over her ribs, counting the beats, whispering things I didn't even mean to say. "You're okay. You're okay. You're not too much. You're just enough." Her paw shifted weakly against my palm, the smallest response, but I held onto it like a lifeline. I gave her fluids, antibiotics, wrapped her tighter. I've done this 1,000 times with other dogs, but this one was different. Maybe because Grace wasn't just another case. She was a mirror. A small, fragile reminder of how much faith it takes to believe in recovery after you've been thrown away. For hours, I sat beside her, the clinic phone ringing in the distance, rain dripping from the awning outside. Nothing mattered but the slow rhythm under my fingers. The quiet fight of a tiny shepherd dog refusing to give up. When her breathing finally steadied, I exhaled for the first time all day. My own pulse had been running with hers, one heartbeat trying to pull another back into rhythm. I brushed my hand gently over her fur. "You hear me, Grace? You're not too much trouble. Not now. Not ever." Her eyes flickered open for a second, cloudy, tired, but there. She pressed her nose weakly into my wrist. The softest act of trust I'd ever felt. Her breathing slowed, syncing with mine, and in that silence I realized I needed her healing just as much as she needed mine. It took 7 days. 7 long, slow days of waiting, watching, whispering hope into the still air of the clinic. But that morning, Grace decided the floor was hers again. She'd been sitting at the edge of her blanket, eyes following the other dogs through the glass, a playful puppy barking at a chew toy, a sleepy old beagle stretching out on his mat. I could tell she wanted to move. You could see it in her paws, that twitch, that small dance of doubt and curiosity. I didn't call to her. I didn't coax or bribe. I just sat there, coffee in one hand, heart in the other, pretending I wasn't holding my breath. Then it happened. One paw forward. A pause. Another. Her back legs wobbled a little. Her tail flicked once, unsure. The tiles under her claws made a soft clicking sound. A sound that somehow felt louder than the rainstorm we'd survived the week before. That sound meant life. The young German Shepherd puppy took another step, then another, until she reached the middle of the room. The light hit her fur, still patchy in spots, but clean, warm, real. She turned her head and looked at me like she was saying, "See? I'm doing it." The techs froze mid-conversation. One of them gasped quietly. The receptionist leaned around the counter, smiling through tears she tried to hide. Even the old beagle lifted his head, tail thumping twice in approval. Grace stopped, panting slightly, chest rising and falling with effort. Her paws trembled, but not from fear anymore, from the sheer effort of standing tall, of belonging. I crouched down, barely breathing. "That's it, girl. Take it slow." She tilted her head, ears half up, half down, that same uneven look she'd had the night she barked for the first time. But now there was something else in her eyes, a quiet confidence. She took another step, then another, across that sterile clinic floor, through puddles of light, into a world that had finally started to feel safe. Every movement was clumsy, imperfect, but defiant. Each paw print was a sentence written in courage. One of the clients waiting for their dog whispered, "Is that the puppy from the cart?" I nodded, my throat tight. "Yeah, that's her." Grace looked up at me again, her tongue peeking out just slightly, that awkward, goofy look that only a growing shepherd pup can pull off. She took one last step toward me and rested her paw on my shoe. I swear the whole room stopped breathing for a second. The same paws that once trembled under a cart now carried hope. The sun was sharp that morning, the kind of Texas light that turns metal into mirrors and asphalt into memory. Grace walked beside me, leash loose, her little German Shepherd puppy stride confident and even. The world had grown bigger for her and for me. I hadn't been back to that parking lot since the day I found her, but I knew I had to. Some stories don't end until you face the place they began. We pulled into the same spot near the faded yellow line, the same cart returned glinting in the heat. A shopping cart rolled lazily across the asphalt, bumping against a curb. Grace's ears perked up. I felt her tense for a second, that old reflex whispering from some buried corner of her memory. I knelt down beside her. "You okay, kiddo?" Her eyes met mine, steady. No tremor, no panic, just quiet awareness. We walked closer. I grabbed the old metal cart and rolled it back into place. The sound of the wheels rattling echoed, sharp, familiar, but this time it didn't cut. It faded. Grace sniffed the air, then the ground, tracing something only she could smell. She reached the cart, lowered her nose to the metal frame, and paused. For a moment, she just stood there, still, present, brave. Her tail swayed once, then she turned away. No fear, no flinch, just a small, calm exhale, like the wind leaving a storm that's finally run out of rage. I stood there watching her, this growing shepherd pup who had once been a trembling shadow under a cage cart. And now, here she was, choosing peace over pain, quiet over fear. A few people walked past, grocery bags in hand. One of them glanced at us and smiled. "Beautiful dog." I nodded. "Yeah, she earned it." Grace tugged the leash gently, leading me toward the car. I followed, because that's what you do when someone stronger than their past decides to move forward. At the edge of the lot, I looked back one last time. The cart stood still, empty, harmless, just an object again. Grace didn't look back. She didn't need to. That was her victory. No fear, no hate, just peace. I used to tell myself I was just a doctor, that I fixed what was broken, handed it back, and moved on. But some lives don't fit in that system. Some lives break through it. Grace did. That night after we went back to the parking lot, I didn't even think about bringing her back to the clinic. I just drove home. She sat in the passenger seat of my old truck, head tilted, tongue out, watching the world like it was brand new. And maybe it was. For both of us. The house was quiet when we got there. Too quiet. I'd gotten used to that, the sound of nothing. But Grace filled that silence before she even crossed the threshold. The moment I opened the door, she trotted in like she'd been here forever. Her small paws clicking on the hardwood, her nose brushing every chair leg, every corner, like she was mapping it out. Mine now. She stopped by the couch and looked back at me, waiting. I laughed under my breath. "Yeah, kid, it's all yours." That night, I didn't put her in a kennel. I didn't lay down rules. I just spread out an old blanket by the couch. But she didn't care about the blanket. She climbed right next to me, curled up and rested her head on my leg. A young German Shepherd puppy, once left under a shopping cart like garbage, now sleeping like royalty, as if she knew she'd finally found her place. Her breathing was soft, rhythmic, that kind of sound that pulls you out of yourself. I sat there, hand on her fur, feeling her warmth sink through my bones. You'd think it's the rescuer who saves the dog. But sometimes it's the other way around. When you live your life fixing pain, you start carrying pieces of it inside you. Quietly. Every abandoned puppy, every stray pup you couldn't reach in time, they build a noise in your head. It hums there, even when the clinic closes, even when the day's over. But Grace, she silenced it. Her little tail twitched in her sleep. A soft snore escaped her nose, that goofy, innocent sound only a growing shepherd pup can make. And for the first time in months, I felt the walls around me breathe again. I thought about all the times I'd told owners their dogs would be okay, even when I wasn't sure. I thought about all the cold tables, the syringes, the nights I'd walked home smelling of antiseptic and loss. And then I looked down at her. This brave pup who refused to die where someone left her. I realized I couldn't let her go, not because she needed me, because I needed her. I leaned back on the couch, eyes heavy, hands still resting on her back. She shifted a little, sighed, and pressed her head deeper against my leg. For the first time in months, I stopped hearing the noise of that parking lot. Just her breathing. Just peace. People ask me sometimes, why that one? Out of all the dogs that pass through my hands, why keep her? I don't have a simple answer. Maybe because Grace wasn't just a German Shepherd puppy. She was a question the world had thrown away. And somehow, she was also the answer I didn't know I was looking for. She taught me something no medical textbook, no years in practice ever could. Broken things don't always need fixing. Sometimes they just need a place to belong. It's been months now. The scar on her paw faded to a pale line, a reminder that healing doesn't always mean forgetting. She runs with the confidence of a small dog who has no idea she was ever trapped under a cart. At the clinic, she walks beside me like a little guardian. Tail up, eyes bright, greeting every nervous rescued puppy with that same calm she earned the hard way. We call her our assistant. Clients laugh, but I see how she changes the air in the room. The trembling dogs settle when she's near. The people, they soften. They remember what gentleness looks like. Sometimes I catch myself watching her, the way her fur catches the sunlight, the way she sits with her chest high like she's carrying the weight of something sacred. And I think that's what redemption looks like. I kept the note that was taped to her cart. Too much trouble. It's in my drawer, folded neat, stained from the rain. I don't keep it out of anger anymore. I keep it as proof that they were wrong, that the world was wrong. Because this little shepherd pup, this trouble, became peace, became love, became home. When I walk her through the park now, people stop and smile. Some kids ask if they can pet her. She always leans into their hands, patient, gentle, fearless. And I think she's teaching them too. She's rewriting what humans broke. Grace isn't a reminder of cruelty anymore. She's a reminder that kindness has the last word. Thank you for watching and for being part of our brave Paws family.